Shalom. Welcome to King David's family history lesson on the Jacobites. In 1688, during the Glorious Revolution, William of Orange ousted King James II from the English and Scottish throne. This forced Scottish nobles to meet at the Convention of Estates in 1689 to decide whether or not to accept William as king. Thanks in part to James's poorly worded letter to the convention, they decided he had forfeited the crown and they accepted William as king, but some remained loyal to James, notably the Viscount of Dundee. After leaving the convention and being declared a fugitive, he began the uprising by raising James's banner in Dundee, but he received very little support in the city, so he travelled north to raise an army from the Highland clans. That's my family, the Jacobites, man. The Highlanders, man. The true royals, man. Us Jacobites believe in the divine right of kings. Therefore, we feel that King James was illegally removed from the throne. James was Catholic and had a lot of support amongst the Catholic and the Highland clans. However, these clans would sometimes swap sides based on old rivalries. On the other hand, the Scots-speaking Lowlanders, who were largely Presbyterian and Covenanters, backed William. Also in England, the largest Catholic populations in Lancashire, Northumberland, backed the Jacobites, plus the Tories, a political group chiefly made up of descendants of cavalry nobility, remained loyal to James and the Stuart household. So this was a dispute largely based on faith and beliefs and the king and the power of the king. Back to Dundee, he gained some supporters and defeated an army of Scottish commenters at the Battle of Kilcranky in July 1689. However, he died in the uprising and the uprising began to quickly fall apart. Meanwhile, William crushed James at the Battle of Boyden in Ireland in 1690, effectively ending Jacobitism in Ireland. Amnesty was offered to Jacobites who took an oath of allegiance. However, Clan MacDonalds, who had not taken the oath before the deadline, were massacred by Scottish William at Glencoe, ending the first uprising. Fast forward to 1707, and the Act of the Union united England and Scotland under Queen Anne. The French, who were fighting England again during the Spanish War of Succession, tried to take advantage of the discontent caused by this. James, at this point, had died, and his son, known as the Old Pretender, was sent to Britain with an army, but the British Navy prevented him from landing. Jacobite sentiment then grew again. In 1714, Queen Anne died and the crown was given to her closest living Protestant relative, George I of Hanover. Then in 1715, the Whigs defeated the Tories in election. The Tory nobles quickly began to raise armies to overthrow George. However, by now, France and Britain were at peace. In southwest England, the planned rebellion had failed before it had even begun. But in northern England and the borders, the Tories managed to raise an army and move as far south as Preston by October. But within a month, they too were crushed. Meanwhile, in the Highlands, the Earl of Mar had raised a large army and captured cities like Aberdeen, Perth and Inverness, but clans that were loyal to George, like the Munros, soon defeated them at Sheriff Muir, ending the Second Rebellion. However, in 1718, the War of the Quadruple Alliance put Spain and Britain at war. Spain sent around 300 troops to Scotland, but they lacked local support and were quickly beaten at the Battle of Glenshiel in June 1719. Despite some intermittent plans to return, it wasn't until the 1740s, during the Austrian War of Succession, that the Jacobites planned to invade Britain again with the help of the French. However, in 1744, a storm devastated the French navy and these plans. Undeterred, the son of the Old Pretender, aka Young Pretender or Bonnie Prince Charlie, sailed to Britain himself in 1745, arriving in the Outer Hebrides in August. A few clans joined the cause, and together they marched south and took Edinburgh in September. Due to the war in Europe, there were few government troops in Scotland, and those that were there were quickly defeated at Preston Bands. In November, the Jacobites decided to move south along the west coast, where 5,000 men, equipped with French weapons. Within a month, they had taken Carlisle, Preston and Derby. However, they lacked the support they had expected. Many deserted, and the French didn't look likely to invade. So, unable to fight the government armies that defended London, they began to retreat and strengthen their position in Scotland. But they were being pursued by a large British army under the Duke of Cumberland. After training through the winter months, the British army assaulted the Jacobites in April 1746. The Battle of Culloden saw my poor family, the Jacobites, get crushed by the British troops, and unfortunately they came out victorious. Hence why we are prisoners of war to this very day. It forced Bonnie Prince Charlie to flee, and Jacobitism effectively ended in Britain. In the violent aftermath of the rebellion, the Duke of Cumberland killed many Jacobites, my family, their supporters and their families. Plus, a series of laws stripped the clan chiefs of their authority, ending our feudal rule of the Highlands. Clan chiefs and Scottish and English landowners would later begin to expel my family, the Highlanders, from our lands as part of the Highland land clearances, further devastating the region's population. The Jacobites, the ones who were not killed, were sent to work on plantations. They used papa balls, public declarations, to take our lands and estates. That's why I say we want restitution for the lands and estates stolen. They used the Admiralty law to steal our lands and estates. This is corruption, man, and the whole world needs to be aware of this. I've exposed people part of secret societies because it's wrong what you are doing. Me and my family are the true Davidic royals, okay, and we are the Israelites. We are prisoners of war, and you break the Third Geneva Convention laws every single day regarding me and my people.